Everybody knows why I'm here, why I'm on the news today is because there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of narratives, really. It's a popular word on No Jumper, but there's been a lot of narratives put out there that I feel like are very, very disconnected, no pun intended, from reality. And here comes Poetic Flacco. Flacco, can you pull up a chair and sort of like split the mic with Mikey, maybe?
Yeah, let me actually put on my socks.
Oh, he's got to put on socks first.
Normally, I put my socks on before I come in the office.
I know.
Okay.
How your feet look, Flacco? Disgusting.
So I'm going to tell this tale from the beginning. So I'm at the AVN Awards, and I'm approached by a trans performer because she's friends with my friend, Nicolette Shea, who I've interviewed previously, porn star. And, she's got a little mob of trans performers around her, and we have a little exchange on camera, and it's kind of funny, whatever. And we reacted to it, or we talked about it on Sledge Lords, and there was an Instagram reel posted as a result, and the trans performer in particular, Gracie Jane, she came on in the comment section and started commenting, and she didn't take like full offense to it, but she wasn't 100% happy with, I guess, the way that we were joking around or whatever. And she said, and so me and Danny right away were like, oh, this could be really good content. We should have her on the podcast, right? So
how are you joking around?
Joking around with her?
Yeah, like what was she upset about?
Well, she said that she wanted to S my D. And I was basically, I can't even remember what we said on Sledge Lords that she like took offense to or whatever. But it was just like, whatever. We're like, let's have her on the podcast. Now, she dropped a comment on that Instagram thing that said, ask House Phone about me. Ha, 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 ha. Or some shit like that. And you'll remember, Lush, that I sent it to the group chat.
Yep.
And it was just like, what the fuck is this? And so House Phone just denied it right away. He's just like, what the hell? He acknowledged that he knew this person, but said, no, nothing like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, he was like, we made a song together, but that's it.
Right. Or yeah, she was in the studio or whatever. And okay, so I take his word for it. Fine. And then we have them on the podcast, me, Danny Mullen, and Danny Mullen doesn't really even know about this. Doesn't even know about that comment that she left on the reel, I don't think. And we're having the conversation, and it becomes obvious pretty quickly that she's intent on continuing to talk about this House Phone thing on the podcast. Now, this was kind of weird for me, and I even let her know during the podcast, like, we're gonna have to edit this stuff out, right? Like this is just weird. Like I can't expose my fucking co-host on the podcast or whatever if he doesn't want this information out there. And you got to put yourself in the shoes of a trans person for a second and think about how they take that, because from their perspective, they are a woman, and nobody should be ashamed of spending time with them or whatever. And so she like pretty much immediately really takes offense to that and is really not stoked on the fact that I told her that we were going to edit it out, right? So we have a whole little huddle afterwards because there were a few of the different like editors and employees in the room at the time. So this is already going to be like a badly kept secret, most likely, because a bunch of different No Jumper employees are in there. And so we talk about it afterwards, and me and House Phone talk about it. We get on the phone. And I do want to also clarify, because apparently it was said that people were laughing in the background of my conversation with him. 100% not true. I was in my office with the door closed. There might have been people making noise outside the office, because I do kind of remember this being like a loud, hectic day where there was a lot of stuff going on. But the idea that anybody was like laughing or making a joke about this or whatever is not the case. That's totally not true. Anyway, I talked to House Phone, and I realized pretty quickly that he's really not feeling this coming out. And at this point, I'm kind of starting to sense like, oh, there must be some truth to this or whatever, because otherwise, why would he be so concerned about it? So pretty quickly, I talked to the editing team, and I have all the screenshots and can prove this and everything. And I basically just tell them like, yo, this is, this can't happen. I know it seemed kind of funny when we were talking about it and everything, but we got to edit it all out. And I feel like I made myself clear too that I didn't want to just like bleep the name, because there would be too many like identifying characteristics when I'm talking about how this is somebody that I've known for such a long time and yada, yada. It would just be like, I didn't want to create this like guessing game of who we were talking about or anything like that. So I said, let's just chop out the whole part where he got discussed. And that, honestly, if it was like an hour and a half long podcast, that might have been like 10 different moments in the podcast. Mikey, can you confirm that there was like a lot of, because you were taking notes of each different time that he got mentioned during it because you anticipated that we were going to edit this out, right?
There was a moment that happened about 10 minutes in where basically me, Adam, and the other person that's on the podcast like were looked at each other and kind of like gave a visual cue about like, let's make sure to know all these things. So I took note of every time that his name was mentioned. At some point, you know, Adam changes the subject and the subject is gone. Lush can attest to this.
I saw the whole unedited clip.
So you are really tapped in, my friend. You're getting all the extras.
So basically, there was proof that, one, Adam didn't know that this was going to happen, that whoever was going to say his name. Also, every time his name was taken out, like the name was said throughout the podcast, like at random times, whatever.
Adam did try to steer the convo away from it, like in his typical fashion, but the Gracie and Danny kept kind of,
because from Danny's perspective too, like he doesn't even know that me and Housephone already had a conversation about this. He doesn't know how sensitive this is going to be. Also, he's white. He doesn't understand the fact that this is probably going to like be more of a thing for Housephone than it would be if fucking Danny banged Gracie Jane. Everybody would get over it in like 12 hours because nobody would be all that surprised, right?
he probably did.
Yeah. I'm not counting
he's a
it.
comedian, you know what I mean? It's like he doesn't understand those barriers. With his friends, all jokes go basically.
And he had no context leading up to this because he was hearing this for the first time. And to him, Housephone's just this fucking guy he knows. And he's not thinking that we're going to edit it out until I start saying we're going to edit this out, at which point she gets fucking super mad too. So in my head also, and I think I said this in one of the screenshots, but I'm like, knowing this can't be a simple situation because if we don't put the podcast out, she's going to get so fucking mad that she came and did this podcast without it being released that I was like certain that she was going to expose it because she had already exposed it on the fucking reel, even though like at that time, nobody really noticed. I didn't see any Reddit posts about it. It wasn't really a thing.
I was there. Like I sit in on Sledgelord, so I can tell you like from the beginning, she came in with this kind of energy of like, basically trying to stand up to Adam or show Adam up or something.
Yeah, which I understand your perspective where you're saying that a girl...
And you can't be putting weird trans memes on your fucking story right
It's
now.
not a trans meme.
But I saw it, and I'm just saying, with the current context, everybody's going to think that you're poking the fucking bear.
I just saw a You Ain't Hardful post that apparently what's it called? Men can have periods now, and I was like, oh, this is a shocker to me. I've been alive for 20
I know. I'm
years.
just saying, like, given the current climate.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well,
Shouts to You Ain't Hard Fool.
You Ain't Hardful's hilarious.
No, everybody
homies.
posted that though.
But like you were
yesterday.
saying, it's like from her perspective, it's like I guess if you were in her shoes and you hooked up with some dude, you probably feel some type of way that he doesn't want to take accountability that he did something with you. If something may have happened. But also, I feel like it is really weird and like shows your character to be like trying to out people, for no fucking reason, for clouds. Like, what is it for?
Let's remove the fact that she's trans for a second. Let's say it's a born woman. Even if that were the case, why are you going out of your way? Like, that's still not cool.
Exactly.
Like, this dude has a girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Imagine
like,
a girl did that, got on a podcast, was like, "Oh, by the way, I did this with Lush a long time ago." You're like, "Dude, who are you?" It's like, why are you even talking about
right?
it?
Like,
that's lame regardless.
And Housephone is a host on the channel, but to put in perspective, we had a girl on the Patreon the other day who said, do you want me to tell a bunch of stories about Drake? And I was like, no, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
we've done enough of that. We already had Selena Powell. We already had the GOAT. We're not really like in the business of exposing people for views at this point. We always turn it down. Maybe a couple exceptions. There might be some that might make that a slightly hypocritical statement. But regardless, we had the conversation. I tell the whole editing team, and right now I would like to go to the first screenshot here. Okay, here's the conversation. This is pretty soon after we filmed the Sledgeworth episode. Adam says, yeah, can we try and edit it? LOL, he's not stoked. Michael says, got it, I'll work on that. And then this is much later. This is after it gets released. So fast forward into the future. I say, people commenting, acting like Housephone got exposed at the end of the pod. Michael said there's a part where Danny says his name while Gracie is talking, and you could sort of hear Danny say it, and he sends me the timestamp. Let's go to the next one, Josh. Okay, and this one, so this is before it was released. I tell them, or I tell Bossa in this case, I feel like we got to cut like all of the shit about phone. Like it's really funny, but I feel like we got to just chop anything where she's talking about whatever. Bossa says, yeah, for sure, agreed. I say, and then he says, we censored the audio every time his name came up, but it's still got the stories, which is kind of untasteful because I feel like people are going to figure it out eventually. I say, yeah, I just want to cut all of it.
Okay.
So this is my motivation for people who are putting out the narrative that I wanted to expose house phone for views. I never would have thought that this was the kind of thing that would get a lot of views in the first place. I don't feel like it's getting a lot of views right now. It's the kind of thing that basically the only people who care about it are like super hardcore No Jumper fans that are going to watch anything that we fucking do anyway, right? Like the blue face is an example of something that we might do for views, you know, get this fucking crazy ass chick on the podcast. That makes sense. But when you're looking at this, you see that my intention was to cut all of it. So what were you going to say, Michael?
Yeah, so around this same time, if you want to go to my email, I emailed Bossa personally on my own saying that I watched over the clip. I think it's the other one. Yeah, it's this one right here. So I hit up Bossa. This is 1:11 a.m. the night after, like the night after the Sledge Lords thing. I hit him up. I tell him, yo, man, the interview's about an hour, 30 minutes long. I can cut it down to 1:13, removing everything that has to do with house phone. And like, I don't really want to say what was in there, but you know, there's something about like us going to a studio together, whatever. Right. All that stuff was gone because I really didn't want to put anything about house phone out there. House phone's like one of the closest homies I got here. One of the first people like to even like really, really talk to me like that. So like, I was going out of my way to like try my best to get all this shit out. The next day, Adam hits me up telling me the same thing, like basically saying this to me, like take everything out. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. We talk about shortening the clip, blah, blah, blah. And I go through the entire thing like 2 times, one time the original time, second time when I do my second edit. And I do this thing. If you have Premiere, you know, you can like outlay the text to hear, like to see like what they're saying, whatever.
Like the same thing as on those Instagram videos.
The same shit, that exact same. I do that to find every instance of house phone's name, cut it all out, whatever. The only and like this is my mistake, and like, you know, I mean, I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit online and whatever for fucking up. But my mistake was there is a moment where she is talking and Danny says the name under his breath where like it's barely caught. It didn't get caught on the text thing. I didn't catch it. So that was basically the fuck up there.
It was like honest mistake.
And the thing about that too is that it's like if my intention was to expose house phone or put something out there about him, why, like, trust me, I was there for the whole conversation. If I wanted to leave in anything, if I thought that there was anything that was just so funny or such good content that we just had to leave it in, trust me, it was not that moment where Danny like said fucking house phone's name under his breath. There were other parts of it that would, if I was going to have left something in that would have maybe, you know, put him being exposed in jeopardy or whatever, it would have been other parts. Trust me. Like this was not an intentional thing. And if I wanted to expose him, this is not how I would have done it. You know, like it was just the fact that with so many podcasts coming out, I don't have time to watch every single thing before it comes out. And unfortunately, this one just kind of slipped through the cracks. And
I think that a lot of people might have thought that because he said like, we need the views, house phone. He said it like that. So that's maybe also sparked further speculation.
She said that?
No, Danny said that.
Danny said that to house
like,
phone?
Yeah. Danny,
Really?
No, I think he said it on the pod, didn't he?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
he
what I'm
said
saying.
on the pod,
He
right.
said,
On the pod,
he's like, well, like we need these views, house phone.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
And but what
That's the part. That's the part
that
that got kept in.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that like, so I think it's important, Mikey, for you to point out that the reason why it didn't catch the house phone is because she was talking at the same time.
She was talking.
So the content ID thing.
It only picked
got
up whatever
what
the
she
like
said.
what she was saying. Yeah, so I like went back on the file and like went to that part, and yeah, the text to speech thing was covered by whatever she was saying at the time. It didn't pick up what Danny was saying because like I'm sure if you've seen the clip, you can tell he like whispers it, like, or like says it under his breath, like this, like, you know. So, I mean, it sucks because since it happened, I've just been like upset. One, upset about the like house phone. One, upset about like fucking up here, like in my job. You know, this is my job. Like I'm supposed to be fixing this shit. And you know, like all these narratives about fucking Adam knowing or planning this is just like, I don't know, ridiculous.
Appreciate that. But right here, let's just pull up this Danny Mullen conversation that I had on Tuesday too, just because I want to really, you know, just put into context of like what the internal conversations about this were like. So Danny says, shit is unbelievable. I still want to know who fucked who and if there was a condom. Obviously, Danny just still, you know, having fun with this because he doesn't really take it super serious. I say house phone seemed more nervous than angry, you know, but I can't expose someone who's been doing pods with me for 7 years. Thing is, she's going to be so offended by us editing it. I feel like she's still going to air him out anyway. He says, do you think bleeping his name is possible, or are we just going to full cut? And yeah, man, whatever. The rest of it is unrelated. But, you know, just to put into context, like this is the conversation I was having with Danny. So now you can see how I was talking about it with the editors and with the co-host. This is all that really, I guess, matters to me, is just like making it clear that I had no intention of giving house phone a headache. I'm fully cognizant of the fact that he's been, you know, I don't want to act like his whole life has just been hell or anything, but obviously dealing with the mom shit and like he's living on his own for the first time and he's got health shit and everything. I mean, he's the last person on the crew, on the staff that I would want to fucking give a hard time right now. So I just, you know, there's a certain part of me that just doesn't even feel like fucking responding to this until like Tuesday or whatever. But I just wanted to actually put all this stuff out there because it's just, you know, the idea that I like have this fucking vendetta against house phone or that I wanted to expose him for views is just, it's not true.
What was the like original reason she came on to the podcast to like debate about trans stuff? Or
No, it
whatever?
wasn't supposed to be a debate. It was just supposed to be like a funny conversation because we had this weird TikTok exchange or whatever. It wasn't really supposed to be that serious. And I also want to say, I don't give a I don't give a fuck what anyone in this office does sexually at all. Anyone could do anything that they fucking want, and it's not my business, and it's not something I'm trying to expose what anyone's into. And then also on top of that, I'm the only person that also has to deal with the fact that Gracie now hates me. And believe me, Gracie is like, you know, a relevant performer or whatever. So she's got a good amount of followers. People pay attention to her, whatever. She is now beyond furious with me about the way that all this played out. So, you know, really, I'm the one who has like pretty much everybody upset with me, and I haven't benefited from it in any way. It's not like this is like something where, oh, like look at how Adam's just raking in money out of this situation. No, it's just pure annoyance and house phone having to deal with a bunch of bullshit and me having to read a million fucking comments.
I can't believe she's upset.
I had nothing to gain from this.
Yeah. Well, two things. Do you feel like in retrospect you could have possibly been like, hey, let's just reshoot this later and then chalk that episode?
I think if it had been edited properly, then nobody would have ever known that there was anything in there about him. You know, it still could have been like over an hour's worth of content with all that stuff removed. Obviously, to be honest, that was probably the funniest and most noteworthy stuff, of course. But the rest of the conversation was still fucking fine. And, you know, honestly, the episode that's up right now, they could edit like, or they did edit it, but I mean, that's exactly what it would have been like. And so, I don't know. I mean, part of me is like, oh, maybe I should have actually rewatched the whole thing just to make 100% sure because it was that serious.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
And this is where I was kind of saying this yesterday. I didn't really know all the behind the scenes of Danny's perspective on things, of what he really knew about. And that's why during Disconnected yesterday, I was thinking like at the whole, you know, the end of this whole situation, I feel like the two people who you could find at fault is number one, her for even trying to do this to, you know, to someone. And then I thought it was kind of like, from my perspective, Danny bringing it up. But then as you're explaining, like he didn't really understand all that stuff. And he was trying, you know, he's a comedian at the end of the day.
And what reason does Danny have to like want to fuck with house phone? Like,
Yeah.
He doesn't have, like Danny, I could tell tries to be like pretty respectful of everybody at No Jubber because he realizes that he's the only like white non-hip hop guy here or whatever. So like, I mean, the idea that Danny wants to like get at house phone or whatever is just No.
Yeah.
I think he was just tone deaf more than anything, you know.
Yeah.
But
He definitely didn't realize it was going to be this much of a thing. You
If
know?
you look at his content with him and his friends, like they don't have no boundaries like that. They
I
make
watched Danny
fun of
Mullins
everything.
fucking filmer get his asshole fingered by Kazumi in front of me on the No Jumper couch. Really on this couch.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
great.
And you know, just to put it into perspective, he didn't really seem to think that was too big a deal. So, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
so I think a lot of people would want to know, like, how are you in house phone now? Where are y'all at? Was there apologies? Are you guys chill? What's the deal?
I mean, yeah, we had a conversation last night that he kind of like, you know, acknowledged that on Disconnected when he kind of like pushed that narrative of that, like did this on purpose to try to get him, you know, to make content or get more views or whatever. And he kind of like apologized for that. So, I mean, whatever. But also like, given that like I am the fucking Elon Musk of No Jumper, like anything that comes out, I do have to take, you know, some element of the blame. And I, you know, the same way that Elon, every single thing that gets posted on Twitter, he eventually somehow gets, you know, faulted for it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly happy to let him fucking say something on Disconnected without me having to like, you know, get mad at him or whatever, just because I know that this was probably a fucking huge unnecessary pain in the ass for him.
And he did a really good job, you know, addressing the situation. Like I was really.
I thought so too.
Yeah, me too.
It's like one thing if House Phone was super transphobic and homophobic and was making a lot of just like remarks like that and trying to portray a certain image, but he's like the nicest dude at No Jumper, like least problematic, super open-minded and chill. So for someone to go out of their way, regardless if it's a trans person, a gay person, or a straight woman, whatever, anyone trying to get at him like that is super out of pocket and doesn't really make sense. Like I'm not exactly sure what Gracie
Like, why did she think that that was going to be a cool idea?
Exactly.
especially like if
That-
she, well,
it's
yeah,
clout
right,
chasing.
it's cloud chasing, but like Adam said, she's super popular already. So like, why? What do you gain from doing this?
But the thing
You feel
is,
me?
the
Like,
thing is that the trans women think that there is nothing to be ashamed of, and that there's no reason to hide this at all, and they get so offended by the idea that somebody would want to keep this shit a secret, and that's kind of like why. Like other people, famous people in LA I can think of who've been fucking exposed or who have done this. Like the trans people are coming out of the fucking woodwork to talk about it because they just love to fucking acknowledge it, because they hate the fact that, and I can kind of attest to this, that dudes publicly will always say that they would never fuck a trans woman, and then in reality, I think like a pretty, you know, not a majority or anything, but a nice chunk of men in reality are open to that, and they hate that. They hate that there's this thing involving them, that they're this secret fetish, and I think that's what she was trying to do. Is like, oh, I'm gonna fucking expose this on here.
I think she had the opposite effect. Now guys, you know, are more likely to, if they're in a room with a trans person, now they're going to be even more scared. Like, oh, now everyone's really going to think we're doing something. We're not just friends or acquaintances. Now it's like, now with people like her trying to throw other people under the bus like that, it's like Lush was saying, if House One was out here saying all these transphobic things, saying it's immoral, he doesn't agree with the blah blah, and then he did that, okay, she kind of has the right to be like, hey, it's kind of not right for you to be like putting me and my, you know, like my, people in my community down while also taking advantage of it.
This is the
He's
man
not- he
who
wasn't- he
wrote
was
the
never doing
Bro
that.
Top freestyle.
right.
He's never done that.
I'm
that's the
just
thing.
saying.
Yeah.
And she's like, I get it. She's like 6'6". She's like 2 inches shy of Scottie Pippen out here. Like she's a fucking starting small forward.
You're next.
Like,
You're gonna expose you.
no,
next.
like I'm not even dissing. Like the thing is, like I said earlier, it's got nothing to do with being trans. Just I wouldn't want anyone, period,
Exactly.
speaking on my dick like that. So I understand like this new the trend in the trans community of wanting to normalize that, which I totally understand. Like people shouldn't be ashamed or forced to be ashamed about that, and it shouldn't be like some like taboo fetish. But just speaking on someone's dick like that, especially when they're in a relationship, that's out of pocket, period.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't even like when, like, even when there isn't this trans element in it in general, I just think it's kind of whack. Like, there's girls that are known enough that if I were to fucking say on camera, oh yeah, I fucked her back in the day, you guys would all be like, oh, that's fucking crazy. Let's all talk about it. That girl has this many followers now or whatever. And I just think it's like kind of in bad taste. Like we do it in the porn world, obviously, because it's a business and it's just.
And it's on blast. We see
Yeah,
it.
but I
Like,
mean, I could think of all kinds of shit from my dating life back in the day that I could put out there, and probably almost anybody could, right? You got some bodies that you could like name it, and everybody be
Absolutely.
like, "Oh, that's crazy, Lush fucked her."
well, like when I said the whole the Eskimo Brothers with Drake, if I said who it was, and
Right.
people, you know what I mean? Like, but that's scandalous to do. You don't want to embarrass people like that, put them on blast.
Respect people's privacy. You know. What
Yeah.
I mean?
So just in case it wasn't clear, House Phone, I apologize for
There
any
it is.
fucking grief that this caused you, for the fact that any of this even became a thing in general. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't even know what else to
And
say.
me and House Phone spoke yesterday too after disconnected.
I literally waited till the end to
Yeah,
disconnect
me-
to facilitate
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like-
And we're cool. Like he understands my perspective. Like, I did my best to try and protect him. But I fucked up.
And I think one of the saddest things about this whole situation to me is Phone was alluding to the fact that he's not sure he wants to. He's like, I don't really know what my future on No Jumper is. And like, to me, like, I really hope that's not the case. And I hope
Me
that
too.
things get worked out because Phone is, as important as anybody to this platform and is a huge reason why it is what it is today. So I really hope that gets fixed.
So now that we have disproven this Adam22 intentionally tried to expose House Phone narrative, you can every single person who said it in the Reddit or on social media, you can all post retractions, and I will just like not even acknowledge them or upvote them. I'll just let you do that.